What is up, folks? Welcome back to the channel. As always, thank you for clicking on this old mug. Allow me to use my outdoor experiences to better yours. Now, I have been talking about working on this old John boat since the day I've got it. I had all these plans for it. And ladies and gentlemen, today's the day we're gonna start working on it. So, if you're thinking about wiring your John boat, whether it's for lights, whether it's for a trolling motor, a radio, whatever have you that requires power, you're watching the right video. I need to get these tires aired up, get this thing in the garage, and let's get to work. Now, in today's video, ladies and gentlemen, we will be installing a Minn Kota Endura 40-pound thrust transom mounted trolling motor. I originally wanted to be on the bow, but you have to go get the Minn Kota Edge, which is like another $200. Wasn't about that life. So I went out and got this Pro Control Easy Mount, which allows you to mount this bad boy on the bow of the boat instead of the transom. Without having to engineer some, goofy stuff on your boat, this does it easy, looks good. I'm excited about it. Now, along with the trolling motor that we're gonna do, we are also gonna put in place a couple of other things to allow for additional things in the future. For instance, a fuse bank for lights, audio, pretty much anything else you're gonna put in your boat. It's always good to have a fuse bank. And a switch bank, same thing. Turn things on and off. Real good to have if you wanna add any lights. I've got a 6-port, so you can have up to 6 different devices turned on and off. A couple other things I have here, everything will be linked in the description, and I'll probably go into more detail once I start installing this, is another fuse block specifically for the trolling motor. It's a 50 amp one, a little bit more juice because that requires a little bit more juice to run. Lastly is this bad boy is a battery kill switch that has 2 positions, 1 and 2. So I'm gonna put the trolling motor on 1 and then all the other electronics on 2, because most likely I'll be running the trolling motor all the time and not so much the electronics. Highly recommend getting one of these. And I got fancy with the shrink wrap and connectors. Not necessary, but good to have, especially in wet conditions. Quick disconnect, you don't need this. This is just to be able to disconnect your thing fairly easy and just make your life easier, but really you don't need none of this. I mean, in actuality, folks, you can literally put a battery in here, run a piece of cable, and just splice it to your trolling motor up here and be done. But will that look good? Probably not. Wires be in your way? Probably so. Will it be safe? Probably not. So we're gonna do it the right way, get everything nice and tucked, nice and pretty, and have this bad boy looking good, and hopefully show you folks a thing or two. So let me get everything situated. What I'm gonna start by doing is running wire, getting everything in place before I actually install the trolling motor. That's the easiest part of it all. I cut up this board already to hold all this stuff. As you can see, it's just a piece of plywood with carpet on it that's supposed to fit perfectly in there. Kind of like that on the inside though, so that I can screw everything to here, but on the inside, so I'm not sure how I did that. I think it goes there. The only thing I need to get is the battery. Those suckers are a little pricey, and I kind of screwed myself because I made this hole super small, and I don't think a regular size 24 battery is gonna fit in there. We'll see. So let me get situated, let me get cleaned up, and let's start this thing. All right, first step is get the wiring in place. I've got 2 types of wire and some flex. Flex is unnecessary. You could easily run it in between these ribs without a problem. I'm just trying to go overboard on some of this stuff just to make sure we're good to go. I got 2 different types of wire. 16-2, which is 16 gauge, 2 conductors, and then 16-6. Same thing, 16 gauge, 6 conductors. Both of it is underground rated. However, it is not marine grade wire. I know, blah, blah, blah. That was a bunch of money for just a couple pieces. This was laying around on a job site, so it worked out. And again, I have 2 different types of cables. 16-2, 16-6. 16-2 is gonna be dedicated for the trolling motor. Lone wire all by itself, running all the way from here to the trolling motor. 16-6 is gonna be spares, mainly just lights, any other auxiliary devices you may have. We're just gonna run it up to the front, leave a bunch of slack, and keep it there for future use whenever we get to that point. So 2 types of wires, underground direct burial rated, not marine wire. I'm sure it's recommended to run marine wire, but I don't have that. We're just gonna have to do with this. Unfortunately, this did not fit right in between these ribs, so I'm gonna have to cut separate pieces the length of in between these ribs just to have it. I think it looks pretty cool. It looks better than just wire hanging, and it will ultimately protect the wire. As you guys seen in the last video, if you haven't already, check it out. I got this storage already made, and it's got some nice carpet inside to hold the battery, the electronics, and all that good jazz. But before we get into that, let's get this wire right. As I mentioned, I am going to have to cut a couple of these pieces here so that they fit in between these ribs, because this thing doesn't go all the way in, and if it is, I'm gonna be struggling a bunch. So I gotta cut couple pieces that just go just inside of there. So it is gonna be bare wire for those 2-3 inches. Same thing for inside the benches, it's gonna be bare wire, but it protects it at least once it's out here in the elements. Now again, if you weren't using this, that'd be perfectly fine. You ain't crazy like I am, and you just simply fish it all the way through. Bam, from there to there. This might be the only spot where you have a little bit of trouble. If you get a coat hanger, literally anything, run it in there. Actually, yeah, usually the end that gets a little sticky. Straighten this out. See how there it's wanting to come out? If you bend it to where it's bending in, it's gonna bend into the boat. And then ideally, pop right out. So whether you're using this or not, this is just gonna make it a little bit more time consuming. Nah, man, screw that. Running that wire through that conduit was not worth it. Maybe if you're running just one wire or 2 skinny wires, cool, but heck no. Unless you want to fight with the conduit for about half an hour, screw that. But we got the cable ran now. It looks pretty, I ain't gonna lie. Now let's start wiring some stuff up. All right, guys, so we got our wires ran. There's the other ones. We're gonna keep it simple. This is just a piece of plywood board that I cut up to fit there. That is gonna fit there up against the wall, similar to that on the inside. Just like that. As you guys can see, my measurements aren't that great. But and then on here, as I mentioned, we've got a fuse block, we've got a individual fuse, and we've got a battery disconnect. I'm not sure how exactly I'm gonna rig these, but something pretty similar to that. Main thing is gonna be the battery disconnect and the fuse for today's purposes. I'm just gonna drill this in place for future videos that we're gonna be doing with switch banks, bunch of lights, all that good jazz. But this is it, guys. Again, trolling motor purposes, all you need is a preferably battery disconnect, preferably a fuse, some wire, run to your trolling motor, and that's it. Now, if you wanted to, you could dump this, dump that, run a wire straight from a battery to the trolling motor, but you are running the risk of blowing your trolling motor and having all sorts of issues with power. So it is best to use an inline fuse. Any battery disconnect, really that is just for your battery to preserve battery and make sure your battery doesn't drain or die. It helps out a bunch. So I'm not sure, let me configure where I'm gonna put these at, where it makes best sense. Let me see if that fits in there and kind of how I'll put it. Drill it in, start running little pre-terminator wires, get it ready. All right, guys, so all I'm doing here is getting some really shallow screws that won't really penetrate all the way through that board and drilling these stuff in. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So, like I said, this bad boy is gonna go first. It is what we're gonna be using the most. This is just a battery disconnect switch, as you guys can see. Off, that is just turning on one leg. That is just turning on the other leg. That is turning on both legs. Leg 1 is gonna be strictly dickly for the trolling motor. Leg 2 is gonna be for this fuse block, which is gonna have everything else. Lights, music, lights, LEDs, all that good jazz. So this is pretty essential just to save your battery and save your devices, mainly your battery. So we're gonna again line it up with the top, because the top is what's straight in there. The bottom is not so much. It comes with this little base plate and a bunch of these long goofy things that I'm just gonna screw this thing straight to the board with these screws, and then it kind of just clips on there. That's gonna go there. Then we're gonna have our fuse block there, something like that. And just drill them in. Again, I'm using really shallow screws just so that it doesn't go all the way through. That's it, man. Let's get screwing. There we go. And there is our board. I might just run some long screws through here and have the base resting on that. And that's it, man. So battery is going to positive leg from the battery is coming into here. From there, one leg is coming into here. One leg is coming into here. Out of here, we'll go to all the devices. Out of here to my trolling motor, which is what we're working on today. And also, guys, I do have a diagram for all this in the description below, and I'll actually put one here so you guys can screenshot. I hope that diagram helps. It didn't take that long to make it, but it looked pretty useful. So let me dry fit this, make sure it actually fits, because some of this stuff is poking out here, and whether or not I like it. Nah, we're good. Oh man, that looks good. That looks real good. And it's in there pretty tight. Not moving much. Looks good though. And then the battery is gonna go on this side. And then the switch bank is gonna be cut into place somewhere over here. I gotta fit the battery first to make sure it's not in the way though. But that looks good. I'm happy with that. I'm really happy with that. I'm gonna pull it out, start getting some wires ready for the battery, and start wiring some of this stuff in. And yeah, we're almost there, guys. Real simple. I'm just gonna work my way, have this kind of some leads sticking out ready for the battery, ready for the device, and just have everything interwired in here. And all I'm gonna use is just the same 16 gauge wire. You know, ideally coming off the battery, you want some 8 gauge, something a little bit thicker than 16 gauge, but that's all we got. So that's what we're gonna make work. And I think this is more than enough for in-between connection. To start off, let's get this battery disconnect wired up. Negatives always go straight to the battery, so we'll worry about the negatives later. This is enough for now. Red wire off. Colors are just to make it easier for you guys, but technically you can use any color wire for anything. Obviously, a different wire you use, different connectors, but you ain't gotta strip back too much. It makes contact fairly quickly. I always like to twist it up a bit. And I guess I've got the shrink wrap right. Might as well use it. Push it in. And crimp her down. There we go. They sell pliers specifically for this, but a needle nose or any kind of climbs with that flat part, and you be alright. And that's it. I guess let me try to shrink wrap this shrink wrap. I don't have a heat gun, but if you want to apply it directly to it, if you apply the fire too direct to it, it starts getting that black color. You don't want to do that. And that's all she wrote. There we go. There's our first connection. I got my socket to tighten that up here. Second. So there's that one. That's going over to here. We're gonna do one more on number 2, going over to there. And so I'm gonna kind of dry fit this here. I'll probably have something to manage these wires. And it is into here, so I can cut this a little bit more slack once I get to the spot. We'll leave that hanging. Let's do the other one. There are our 2 leads. One is going to this is number 1, going to the trolley motor. Number 2 will be going to this fuse bank to power everything else. And then you have that lead that will be coming from the battery. Again, all I have is 14 gauge wires. Ideally, you want something a little bit thicker on that one going to the battery, but I got what I got. Let me tighten these up, add the one for the battery, and we'll just leave that there kind of ready to mingle. And then we'll have this looking nice and pretty, kind of like that there. Right? And run it along, maybe staple it or something, and bam, just like that. That goes to that. Let's get one more for the battery. There we go. That is our battery terminal. All right, let's see if I can get on the first try. Yes, 14, leg 14, leg 14. It ain't gotta be too tight, it's just nice and snug. These cables ain't going nowhere anyway. Bam, just make sure you can't move them. You're done. And that is your battery disconnect. Now we've got our feed to our battery, feed to our fuse block, and then feed to our fuse for our trolley motor. That's it, let's wire these bad boys in. Alrighty guys, so this is what we got so far. There's my switch off. 1 is trolling, 2 is auxiliary, middle is both. There's my fuse bank for all my auxiliary devices, and there's my single fuse for the trolling motor. This is the wire that goes to the trolling motor. You see the positives coming out of the output of that fuse, and then the negative is gonna go straight to the battery when we get it. And that's it, guys. We're gonna leave this here for the next devices, as well as the cable for all the future devices. That's for future videos you guys are gonna wanna see. In the meantime, for now, we're strictly dickly doing the trolling motor. So the wire going to the trolling motor is that one. Again, red. Positive is going to the fuse output that comes from the kill switch that goes to the battery. Negative, black, is going straight to the battery. So we're pretty much done in here. I'm not gonna screw this in, as you guys can see. it's in there pretty tight. And I also got to find a way to manage this wire. I don't like it just kind of hanging out there like that. But that's good for now because I'm going to have to take this out once I start hooking up devices to that. So I'm going to leave that there. It looks good. This gives me plenty of slack to hook up to a battery temporarily. And then I've got space there to put a battery. So we're done on this side. Now it's time to go over to the bow of the boat and get this trolling motor installed with that cool little mount. And I'm really excited about doing it. Haven't opened it yet. Been having it for a minute. Excited about how it mounts, how it looks and all that. So let's get that started. Now for the trolling motor, as I mentioned, I have the Endura 40-pound thrust trolling motor. It is probably the most affordable option. This is a 12-foot John boat. I wasn't trying to get too fancy with it. However, I wanted it mounted on the bow of the boat. To do that, I've seen people rig up all sorts of weird mounts, brackets to make it happen because the front of the boat is at an angle. This wants to mount on something straight. So I scoured the internet and found this bad boy that allows you to mount this bracket to here at an angle and then to mount the trolling motor to the bracket straight down. I'm curious to see if this is gonna work, how bulky it is, how big it is. Again, I have not even opened this bad boy. I've been sitting on these things for a minute. Blah, 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 blee, blee, blah, blee, blah, blee, blah, blue. This is what allows you to get a straight mount. So you lock this up. Let's butt it up. And just kind of like that. Okay. Getting somewhere here. Make sure we're not on any rivets or anything. Let's tighten this bad boy up first. So that's locked at the angle of that. It's just a matter of tightening these up. This is legit. This is legit. Yeah. I mean, that sucker ain't going nowhere. That looks solid. So there you have it, folks. This will allow you to bow mount a trolling motor. Is it supposed to be? Yeah, it's got to be a little straighter, actually. There she goes, man. She's on there. So let's get this bad boy out. Nice. Look at this here bad boy. She looks pretty. And also another thing that we will do here, because it is bow mounted, we gotta flip this head actually to face the other way, but we'll get to that when we get there. So, turns out you do gotta take this mount off to put it on there, which isn't a big deal. You just gotta knock out this pin with the hammer. Just like that, huh? Put it back in the same way. No. Don't do that. I don't think this matters which way it goes in because the notches are on the side of it. Bam. Bam. Look at that, folks. Look at that. It is looking nice. Looks good on that boat. If I'm done using it, you just go up to the lock position, and then this can, bam. Just like that, we're ready to travel. Just more stuff banging around on the boat. Alrighty, folks, quick update. We were able to run all the wire through that flex from the front of the boat to the back of the boat. We have got all of our devices, our fuses and devices in place inside. That's gonna hold our battery. Wire's ready to go for the battery. And we went ahead and mounted this Minn Kota on this easy mount to be able to mount at an angle on the bow just like that. The other thing we did was turn the head around real easy by just unscrewing this one screw, pulling it out, turning the head, popping it back in on the other side. The handle goes in fairly easy. You just have to be considerate of the position of the off, has to line up with a little line tail in there. That's it. So all we got to do now is get this wire paired up with this male adapter and then drill this female adapter somewhere in here out of the way, and then run somewhere and get a battery for that bad boy. Bam! Cut these off, although they're very good connections. Not neat. And we're going to splice these on there. Just like that though. They're using some pretty heavy duty wire, unlike myself. Back to it, y'all know the drill. These are positives to positivas. Yeah, buddy. Again, shrink wrap isn't as necessary, but we're getting fancy today, so here we go. That's it. Heat her up. Do the same thing to the negative. There we go. That's the one. There you go, folks. Male connection. Again, this is going to go straight into the female connection that we are going to drill into here. And that's it. Let's make sure. So we don't rub these in. Beautiful. Don't do that. That's nice. And then all I'm going to do, drive a couple self-tappers through there and call it a day. And cut it about right there. Screw back just what you need. And let's get to splicing. There we go, baby. And so all this bad boy's gonna do is, oh, is it time to go troll? Sweet. Let's go. Well, folks, it done got dark on us, but we got it done. As you guys can see, we've got this nice little outlet here in which this easy disconnect. Of course, it's hard to do with one hand, but you get the point. Bam. Bam. Inside of here, we've got the splice in there, nice and tucked away with the wires all hidden. Ran the wires through some flex, looking really pretty. Back to their forever home, where we are missing a battery. All right, appreciate it. Have a good one. Now there's a bunch of batteries you can get. Size, all that AGM, all that good jazz. I was a little limited on the one I could get because of the size and the hatch that I cut. And I measured this battery and I was cutting it close. Super stock marine deep cycle, straight from O'Reilly. So let's hope it fits. So let's see. Will it fit? 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 Yes. Yes. Okay, perfect. I gotta move some things around to get that nice and pretty, but it should fit. Now we're done. Now's the time to finally test this thing. Will it work though? Let's see. Now, it did take me a minute. I had to cut out a piece of the foam board that was underneath this, paint it black so that you can tell it was so terrible, and let that dry. Other than that, it fit good, I think. I did have to cut this notch out there. But other than that, look at that. Open it up. Got this covered. There's our kill switch. Let's turn it on and see. There we go. So we're gonna turn it over to 1. That is the trolling motor only. So which should, there we go, baby. Nice. That was reverse, I believe. That's forward. 5 speeds. I cannot wait to test it on the water. Now, I don't have a battery charger yet, so I don't want to go too crazy with this stuff, but we're done, folks. That is it. I will, like I said, leave that PDF in the description below. I hope it helps you guys. You can apply this to anything electrical on your boat. We have a fuse block here for multiple devices. We've got a bilge pump to put on here, LED this bad boy up, and possibly, maybe, a fish finder up here. That is, again, the reason why I ran some of these extra wirings, so that I can get lights, stuff everywhere that I need in the future, folks. On that note, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope I was able to help some of you guys. And if not, hit me up in the comments. I'm gonna try to have everything linked in the description below. And I can't wait to see you guys next time.